He paid for a practical wife, but found joy in her burnt biscuits. Jack Thompson stared at the plate of burnt biscuits sitting in front of him, its blackened surface glistening like a wreck. His mind raced. This wasn't what he signed up for. He had envisioned a future defined by practical decisions, efficiency in all aspects of life, and domestic harmony. After all, he had recently earned a promotion at his engineering firm, and those expectations loomed large. A practical wife was essential. Yet here he was, confronting this culinary disaster, and a vibrant young woman who seemed to revel in chaos. "Sorry about the biscuits," Lisa Carter said. Her smile warmed despite the glaring failure on the plate. Jack felt an unsettling twist in his stomach. Shouldn't a partner excel at household tasks? He'd watched his mother labor through endless struggles, but her grit had instilled in him a desire for stability. The charcoal aroma clung to the air, stinging at his sense of order. Maybe he was right to demand a partner who could manage the domestic side of life. But as the evening unfolded, Jack began to grapple with a gnawing discomfort within. Lisa's laughter rang out as she recounted stories about her late husband, her eyes sparkling like the autumn leaves outside. Frustration battled with intrigue. Was he being too rigid? Was he missing something vital? The pressure from his family to conform tightened like the noose of a life carefully constructed on practicality. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack's thoughts spiraled. He could hear his mother's voice echoing expectations about stability, about finding the right partner. Yet here he was, weighing lists of skills against the laughter that danced between them. A part of him wanted to embrace this new warmth in the chaos, while another part clutched tightly to practicality. Would he choose a life cultivated in efficiency, guarded against the unexpected, or one that embraced spontaneity, messy and beautiful? The more Lisa spoke, the deeper Jack tumbled into the emotional chasm he'd created with his own rigid structure. He could feel the walls he built rattling. Confusion mixed with burgeoning desire. Burnt biscuits felt so minor, but why did it resonate within him? Fear mounted. Was he longing for love rather than convenience? Torn between wanting his mother's approval and the thrill of a life filled with vibrant unpredictability, he couldn't shake the frustration constricting his chest. As laughter echoed from the dining room and Lisa's spirit shone through her imperfections, Jack found himself hovering on the precipice of a decision. Was happiness truly defined by efficiency, or could it thrive in the very imperfections he sought to avoid? There, amidst the charred biscuits, his resolve flickered and wavered. He could almost taste the difference between a predictable outcome and the energetic chaos that sparked in real connection. Would he be brave enough to let go of the safety net and embrace this unexpected joy, even at the cost of a perfect life? The questions loomed larger than ever, and Jack's heart raced as he confronted the turbulent forking path ahead of him. Jack returned home that evening in a daze, the scent of burnt biscuits still lingering in his consciousness like a shroud. The steaming cup of coffee in his hand seemed less a comfort and more a frail artifact of normalcy. He sank onto the couch, the cushions enveloping him like a soft, familiar quarter of his life that was now painfully out of sync with his recent experience. The glow of his laptop beckoned with its promises of deadlines and engineering projects, yet he felt no eagerness to dive back into the numbers that had once defined his world. As he gazed at the screen, a battle raged in his mind. Was the promotion he sought truly worth this sterile pursuit of practicality? His thoughts shifted to Lisa, her laughter, the stories of her late husband, her embrace of life's unpredictability. They danced together in his imagination, kindling a warmth he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years.
With a sudden rush of defiance, Jack pushed the laptop aside and grabbed his phone instead. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he'd avoided for months, his mother. Maybe it was the uncertainty about Lisa that compelled him, the urge to seek approval overshadowing the hesitation that had kept him distant. With a deep breath, he pressed call. "Hello, Mom?" Her voice was a mix of surprise and concern. "Jack, is everything okay? He faltered, trying to articulate what had shifted within him. "I've been thinking a lot about my life, how I've chosen to live it." "What do you mean?" she probed, sensing his struggle. "About practicality and love," he admitted, sensing the weight of revelation in his words. Silence stretched across the line. "And is she what you need?" That question echoed painfully. Was Lisa really what he needed, or was she a charming distraction from the meticulously laid plans? Jack clenched his jaw, battling between the legacy of expectations forged by his mother and the raw truth of his burgeoning feelings for Lisa. "I don't know," Jack confessed. "She's different. She offers chaos. And I think maybe I've been too rigid. Chaotic isn't always a bad thing," she mused, her voice tinged with an understanding he hadn't anticipated. "Perhaps it's time you decide."
What you truly want, Jack, not what you think you should want. With a rare flicker of courage igniting within him, Jack resolved then to confront this uncertainty directly, to explore the unknown rather than shying away. He hung up the phone, a plan forming in his mind. He would invite Lisa out again, this time to share a part of his world, the engineering firm, a glimpse of his structured life, but not without showing her his vulnerabilities, the parts where the chaos might seep in. Yet as the idea bloomed, doubt reared its head. What if she didn't appreciate the rigidity of his profession? What if the engineer in him failed to maintain her interest in the music of their chaotic arrangement? The thought sent a wave of anxiety coursing through him, tightening his chest. Determined, he grabbed a notepad, jotting down key points he wanted to explore with her. Maybe she could learn about structures and formulas, but in return, he would dive deeper into her world of spontaneity. Before he could fully calibrate his plan, a light ping erupted from his phone, snapping him back to reality. Lisa had texted, "Hey, I know last night was a bit rocky. How about trying again? I promise to limit burnt biscuits this time." The warmth that seeped from her message melted the tension. A smile played on his lips. This was his chance. With a trembling resolve, he typed back, suggesting an outing to his favorite coffee shop. They needed a new backdrop, a chance to mold their chaotic selves into something more meaningful. As he pressed send, Jack felt the threshold to a new beginning crack open before him. But doubts lingered. Could he genuinely open up to Lisa, accept her chaotic essence while navigating the structured demands of his life? The moment of truth was rapidly approaching. With a quickened heartbeat, Jack awaited her reply, knowing this was merely the beginning of a transformative journey yet to unfold. Would he find a way to bridge the gap between chaos and order? The sun broke through the clouds the next morning, illuminating Jack's modest living room with a striking clarity. The lingering tension from the previous night clung to him, but the prospect of meeting Lisa sparked a flicker of excitement deep within. He rose with purpose, the weight of his self-imposed limitations pressing down less upon him. Instead, he felt a lightness as he prepared for their coffee outing. Though apprehensive, he showered and dressed carefully, aware that today marked a significant step in his journey of self-discovery. As he fastened his shirt collar, the sharpness of its edges felt reminiscent of the precision he had long valued. Yet, in this moment, he sensed a desire to embrace a different kind of softness, the willingness to be vulnerable. He stood before the mirror, practicing a smile that would communicate openness instead of tension, as he wondered whether he could show Lisa a side of himself that was unguarded. Arriving early at the coffee shop, Jack ordered a simple black coffee, meticulously avoiding the frills that might distract from his intention. He chose a table by the window, allowing his thoughts to wander as he waited. Would Lisa arrive with the same whimsical energy that had captivated him? Would he find joy in the chaos of her presence again? Moments later, the bell atop the door jingled, and there she was, Lisa, radiant, with laughter dancing in her eyes as she strode in. It struck him then that she was entirely at home in the unpredictable. Each step seemed to defy his carefully crafted structures. She caught his eye, and his heart raced. "Sorry I'm late," Lisa quipped, taking a seat opposite him. "Got distracted by the smell of fresh pastries. I couldn't resist grabbing one." Jack chuckled, momentarily relieved by her genuine spirit. "No worries, I'm just glad you're here." Their conversation flowed naturally, spurred on by the back-and-forth banter that had drawn them together. But just as quickly as he relaxed into her presence, Jack's thoughts turned inward, fear lingering as shadows on his mind. How long could he maintain this disposition? Was he becoming too absorbed in her chaos at the expense of his own stability? As they engaged in light-hearted discussion, touching upon her latest artistic endeavors, Jack wrestled with his internal conflict. Should he show her the engineered side of his world, the designs, the plans, the meticulously measured success? Or should he let her lead him into the unpredictable, significantly different from the predictable blueprints he was used to? Before he could coalesce his thoughts, Lisa leaned in closer, a playful glimmer in her eyes. "All right, Mr. Engineer, if I can show you a different approach to life through art, then you have to promise to take me to your world. I want to see what makes you tick." Her challenge hung in the air like a group of notes suspended in a symphony. Here was an opportunity, an invitation to share his structured life with someone who thrived in the chaotic. Yet Jack felt the surge of anxiety return. What if she didn't get it? What if their worlds were as incompatible as oil and water? "Are you sure you want to?" he finally managed to ask, a tremor threading through his voice. "My life is, well, let's say it's pretty conventional." "Conventional can be a canvas too," she replied, her tone light but earnest. "And I'm curious to see what's behind that canvas of yours." Jack considered what she meant, thoughts colliding within him like that first cup of coffee spilled on a busy table. This was the moment he had to decide: embrace the discomfort of sharing his life with Lisa, or retreat into the safety of his structured existence, missing out on a world vibrant with possibilities. As he looked into her eyes, he saw the openness he had long sought. The internal battle raged on, but one question surfaced. Was the bridge he needed to build worth the risk of instability? "All right," he said, his voice steadying. "Let's do it, but know that there may be a little chaos involved." As laughter erupted between them, Jack could barely comprehend how liberating it felt to connect beyond the confines of expectations. He was stepping onto a path less traveled, paving a way towards balance. Yet as excitement surged, he also knew he would soon confront the realities of the choice he had just made. Could he navigate the inevitable tumult of merging their worlds? The thought stirred apprehension within him, leaving him anxious about what lay ahead. The answer arched over him like a tightening string. The next step would push the boundaries he clung to so tightly. Before he could further sort through his emotions, Lisa leaned in closer, arching an eyebrow with playful intrigue. "So, when do I get to see the blueprints of Jack the Engineer?" There was no turning back now. The transformative journey had just begun. Would he rise to the occasion and embrace the chaos? The path to enlightenment awaited just ahead. Jack's heart raced as he and Lisa strolled through the streets, the invigorating scent of summer piquing his senses. The world teemed with surprise, a vivid contrast to the predictable rhythm of his daily life. With every step, he felt the delicate balance between excitement and fear, the uncertainty of blending the structure of his existence with Lisa's boundless spontaneity. "Here we are," Lisa announced as she pulled Jack toward a quaint studio tucked between two tall buildings. The sign hanging above the door read, "Artisan's Atelier." Jack's apprehension resurfaced. He had never been one to engage in activities typically labeled as creative or artistic. Would he be a hindrance in this environment, a clumsy giant amongst delicately painted canvases?
As they entered, the space enveloped them in vibrant hues and eclectic art pieces sprawled across the walls. Artists busily worked at easels, brushes dancing across canvases, each stroke a testament to their unique perspective on life. Jack's analytical mind began to categorize, dissect, and assess the surroundings, but Lisa's enthusiasm proved infectious as she led him further into the studio. "Look at this one!" she exclaimed, pointing at a swirling medley of colors. "It speaks to me in ways I can't even describe." Jack feigned interest, nodding, but his thoughts spiraled into doubt. How could he possibly contribute to anything as unmeasurable as art? He had thrived on precision, clarity, and formulas. Lisa, with her chaotic brilliance, embodied everything he had kept at bay for so long. "Come on, let's try our hand at painting." Her eyes sparkled, igniting laughter with an irresistible playfulness. The idea of making a mess with paint unnerved him. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that," he replied reluctantly, half-heartedly pushing against the urge to engage. "Why not? Art is about expression, not perfection," she teased, but he could sense an underlying earnestness to her urge.
Challenge as she looked at him. With a deep breath, Jack reluctantly picked up a brush. As he dipped it into the paint, he felt his anxiety numb momentarily, transforming into a curious anticipation. What if he allowed himself to be vulnerable in front of Lisa? What if he learned to embrace mistakes instead of avoiding them? The paint met the canvas in an array of clumsy strokes. Without conscious intention, he began to lose himself in the movement, letting go of his demand for symmetry. Each unrefined stroke brought a sense of liberation. Each color heaved with emotions he had locked away. "See, you're already doing it," Lisa cheered, standing behind him with genuine excitement. As he painted, Jack's thoughts began to shift. Here, in this chaotic swirl of colors, perhaps he could carve out a new part of himself that intertwined with the complexities of who Lisa was. Maybe they could coexist, his structured mindset framing her chaotic spirit. As he stepped back to assess his work, he found himself confronted with a canvas that was far from perfect, but illustrated a new sense of courage. "What do you think?" he asked, half embarrassed. "I think it's a start. This could definitely use some tweaking, but it's got heart," Lisa laughed, her eyes shining with appreciation. In that moment, Jack understood that the value of sharing his world with Lisa was not confined to creating something tangible. It was about opening himself up to the experience of connection, a foray into the unpredictable aspects of life he had long neglected. "All right, I'm on board," Jack found himself saying. "I'll show you my blueprints, but don't expect them to be pretty." As they painted side by side, laughter intermingled with quiet observations, Jack experienced something uncharted. He wasn't just collaborating on an art piece. He was merging two distinct worlds, two different philosophies into one shared experience. But as the sun dipped on the horizon, casting a warm glow across their canvases, certainty gave way to an undercurrent of anxiety within him. Would this newfound openness withstand the challenges of their diverging realities? "Jack, you know what? I can't wait to see your life in action. I want to understand the engineer behind all this creativity." Her enthusiasm sparked a flood of thoughts within him. How much would he be willing to reveal? Identities had a way of molding perceptions. Would he still be welcomed in her realm once she saw the whole picture? As they continued painting, that insecurity grew like a creeping vine. The clarity Jack had felt earlier was fading under the weight of expectation. The moment would soon arrive when they would step deeper into each other's worlds. How would their perceptions shift when faced with the truth behind his structured life? The question loomed like the blank space on a canvas yet to be colored. Would he have the strength to step beyond the confines of his own understanding? As sunlight dimmed, casting shadows over the studio, he felt it necessary to confront the lingering uncertainty. In this new chapter of exploration, the real transformation was yet to come. As the sun settled deeper into the horizon, Jack found himself thumbing the edges of his hastily painted canvas, the rush of paint beneath his fingers a tangible reminder of the divergence between his two worlds. This paradox weighed heavily on his mind.
Next to him, Lisa's laughter filled the air, a melody that danced around the uncertainties constricting his heart. He appreciated her energy, yet the pressure to reveal his true self felt immense. "Isn't art great, Jack?" she exclaimed, her eyes widening with wonder as she swirled a vibrant shade of magenta across her canvas. "Just look at how free we get to be with colors." "Yeah, free," he echoed, though the word tasted bitter on his tongue. Freedom implied vulnerability, an exposure he hadn't quite prepared for. Would she still hold the same adoration for him once he shared the meticulous layers of his real life, bound by logic and precision? The brush felt foreign in his hand, like an alien artifact from a world he barely understood. The chaotic array of colors on their canvases was starkly dissimilar to the bejeweled clarity of his engineering schematics. He derived satisfaction from measurements, precision, a beautifully complex calculated equation. Here, however, he was challenged to indulge in spontaneity. "Let's take a break," Lisa suggested, pulling him from his introspection. She motioned to a small table where mugs of paint water sat alongside jars filled with exotic brushes. "Tell me about the blueprints you mentioned." Jack felt a knot twist in his stomach. How could he encapsulate the entirety of his life in a few sentences? He hesitated, grappling with whether this was yet another moment in which vulnerability could lead to connection or a reason for disappointment. They're nothing fancy," he started, searching for the right words to quantify years of dedication to structure. "Just designs I've worked on at my job." "Structures? Like buildings?" She leaned closer, genuine excitement replacing any hint of judgment he expected. "You have to tell me more." "More like transportation systems," he replied, his curiosity piquing a little at the mention. After all, sharing this part of his life felt equally monumental to creating art. "It's about efficiency and traffic flow, really. Necessary calculations, flow diagrams. It's math." "Math can be an art form itself," she countered, her enthusiasm infusing hope into his reserved thoughts. "And you create something that benefits people. That's incredible." As she tilted her head, her hair catching the last golden rays of sun, Jack wondered if Lisa understood. The work he poured himself into rarely drew praise from anyone outside his industry. Engineers weren't known for their charm. They constructed, they didn't paint. Yet here she was presenting his profession with the very validity he feared was hidden away beneath layers of formulas. A flicker of determination sparked within him. Perhaps they could bridge this gap between their worlds, his precision marrying her chaos. No longer simply an engineer or an aspiring artist, he sensed the beginning of a new identity forming, a fusion of both the calculated and the imaginative. "Would you like to see my designs next time?" he proposed hesitantly, the wake of expectation still crackling in the air. "Absolutely," she said, her excitement contagious. "You can teach me about the engineering side, and I'll show you how to incorporate creativity into it." "Sure," he admitted softly, but inside, trepidation lingered. As the conversation meandered into the details of their respective worlds, something shifted within Jack. He began to see that he didn't need to choose between the rigid lines of engineering and the colorful strokes of creativity. There was room for both identities, both passions. Slowly, he unwrapped the ties binding him to self-doubt with every word exchanged. Yet beneath the hopeful facade, anxiety gnawed. How would this integration unfold? What were the risks of exposing not just his work, but how it defined him? The sun's final light dimmed, leaving them surrounded by shadows, mirroring his internal conflict. He watched Lisa laughing as she diligently smeared more of her whimsical designs across her canvas, oblivious to the precipice on which he stood. He could feel the tension building. Was he truly ready to craft a life intertwined with hers? Would his world survive her vibrant spontaneity? With every brushstroke on the canvas, decisions were taking root, but clarity was still eluding him, lurking in the backdrop, waiting to pounce. That question loomed larger. Could he embrace the spontaneous self she awakened within him without losing the essence that had defined him all these years? As they stepped back to assess their chaotic efforts, Jack caught Lisa's eye, resilience battling uncertainty, and felt a surge of courage ripple through him. This journey was just beginning, and the next step could either solidify their bond or unravel it entirely. The darkness gathered nearer, ready to illuminate the path ahead. Days turned into a blur of colors and calculations for Jack. He sat at his desk, surrounded by engineering designs, yet his mind drifted, toggling between the certainty of blueprints and the uncertainty of brushstrokes. Lisa's enthusiasm awakened something that had long been dormant. He began to recognize the creative heartbeat pulsing beneath his analytical exterior. The intensity of his dual existence loomed large. He spent restless nights sketching, not buildings or roads, but abstract designs influenced by Lisa's improvisational style. Vibrant colors eluded him, remaining mere whispers of potential. His hands yearned to press boldly into the canvas, yet the fear of failure hovered ominously. Returning to the art studio felt both exhilarating and anxiety-inducing. Their first collaborative project loomed. Jack would reveal both his designs and the untethered side of himself. Would his careful calculations find harmony with her spontaneous craftsmanship? As he entered the studio, the scent of fresh paint enveloped him. Lisa was already hard at work, her vibrant smile casting warmth.
Into the cool, shadowed space. She turned, brushing a streak of paint from her cheek, and met his gaze. "All right, show me what you've got," she exclaimed, excitement radiating from her. Jack swallowed. "I've been sketching a few ideas," he admitted, pulling out a roll of paper from his satchel. As he unfurled it, he hesitated. What if his passion was too rigid? What if he was just a mechanical part amongst her living art? But when he looked up, Lisa's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Wow, Jack, this is beautiful," she said, her voice spilling over with genuine appreciation. He felt a surge of warmth, but it was soon tempered by doubt. "It's simple. It's just a concept," he stammered, a defensive shield rising instinctively. "No, it's a great start," she insisted, stepping closer. "What if we added some unexpected colors here, here, and here?" She poked at the margins of his sketches, her paint-streaked fingers dancing along the lines. As she animatedly illustrated her ideas, Jack couldn't help but be captivated. Each suggestion felt like a fresh breeze flowing into the stifling confines of his linear thinking. They discussed textures, geometry, and blends, layering his engineering thoughts with her imaginative flexibility. Their collaborative spirit was intoxicating, but Jack felt a familiar knot tightening in his stomach. Somewhere deep down, he still worried that melding their visions could expose fundamental realities he wasn't ready to confront. How far could this partnership snap? "Are you okay?" Lisa asked, noticing his contemplative silence. "You seem far away." He could have said he was simply sorting out ideas. Instead, he weighed his response, a decision point where bravery or retreat loomed. "I've never done anything like this before. It feels intimidating." Lisa stepped back, her brows knitting. "So what? Creation is all about fear. It's what makes it real." Her words pierced through his doubts. They were profound, yet so simple. What if the chaos wasn't something to fear, but something to embrace? The thought rolled around, unraveling the tight, restricting grip of expectation he had cultivated over the years. "Right," he said slowly, allowing the possibility to settle in. "I want to try. No more holding back." And in that moment, a shift occurred. He allowed the paint to flow, letting vibrant strokes emerge that meld seamlessly with Lisa's ideas. Together, they forged a pathway merging his precision and her spontaneity, her laughter encouraging each leap into the unknown. As they worked, however, self-doubt still lurked close behind, whispering incessantly. Would this newfound creativity translate in his professional life?
Was he sacrificing his identity as an engineer for a fleeting dalliance with art? As they stepped back to assess their emerging collective vision, he felt exhilarated, yet apprehensive. The canvas held their journey together, a manifestation of growth and struggle. Jack caught a glimpse of a potential future, one where being an engineer didn't exclude him from the world of creativity. Yet, somewhere in the corners of his mind, a question loomed. What would happen when they had to merge their separate lives outside the studio? He could sense the exhilarating yet terrifying collision of these two worlds. As shadows enveloped the studio, he turned to Lisa, energy shifting again as potentiality crackled in the air. The depth of their duet was just beginning, but one thought burned like a fresh canvas, a question that echoed louder than any uncertainty. How would they handle the inevitable fallout of their combined realities? The air felt charged as Jack stepped away from the canvas, heart pounding in his chest. The mixture of paint and sweat lingered, fragrant and primal. He shared a look with Lisa, and for a fleeting moment the colorful chaos seemed to dissolve the walls he had built over the years. Yet beneath that moment of beauty lay apprehension and the looming fear of inadequacy. Could he truly balance this new aspect of himself with the rational engineer he had long clung to? "Let's take a break," Lisa suggested, sensing the tension clinging to him like mist. "Get some fresh air?" The coolness of the evening air greeted them outside, a stark contrast to the warmth of the studio. As Jack breathed deeply, he wrestled with an unyielding paradox. Here was a blossoming creative side, raw, unstructured, and vibrant. But what would it cost? "Remember," Lisa said, breaking into his thoughts, "it's all about experimenting. Even if we fail, it's part of the process. I've spilled paint everywhere, but each mistake just leads to something new." He responded with a nod, admiring her unwavering confidence despite their budding partnership's volatility. There was a hard truth in her words that resonated. Yet, as an engineer, he had been conditioned to avoid failures, a mindset built on precision and predictability. "Right," he murmured, swallowing hard as self-doubt crawled back into the corners of his mind. "But it's just different. In engineering, failure means something is broken. Here, does it mean we start over?" "Or it means we evolve," Lisa replied, her eyes twinkling with mischief beneath the fading light. "Think of it like adjusting parameters in your calculations. Sometimes the most complex designs come from unexpected shifts." Jack sighed, the weight of his job pressing in on him again. Disruptions were antithetical to the mathematical world he had thrived in. "Do you ever worry that some pieces don't fit? What if some parts of me aren't meant to coexist?" Lisa's gaze held steady. "That's where life gets interesting. It's not about fitting everything perfectly. Everyone is a series of contrasting ideas, just different color palettes fighting for space. Embrace it." The simplicity of her conviction sparked something within him. However, it was always easier said than done. Each clash within him felt like miles apart, the meticulous engineer battling it out with a burgeoning artist. As they ambled back into the studio, Jack resolved to try again. With new focus, they stumbled through deeper layers of color. Each brushstroke and conversation expanded their collaboration. Yet he felt the familiar pulse of anxiety, a reality check as he confronted the type of engineer he wanted to be. Could he bring these two identities together without sacrificing himself? With concentrated determination, he experimented more boldly, allowing the designs to evolve with them. Yet still, the fear rooted within him, a relentless whisper casting shadows on self-discovery. Amid their creative endeavors, Lisa's easy confidence challenged his readiness to embrace failure, loitering stubbornly like a ghost. Jack clenched his jaw, navigating the fine line between ambition and apprehension. As they finally stepped back again to survey their latest work, there was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Their combined efforts painted something beautiful, but beneath that beauty loomed the reality of his struggle. Would his engineering colleagues understand this new path? Caught in a moment of reckless bravery, he said, "What if there's a chance for me to share this perspective at work? This blend? It feels worthwhile, doesn't it?" "Absolutely," she exclaimed, and he could feel her enthusiasm ignite something fiercely hopeful within him. But with that hope came a trickle of anxiety. How would he introduce this art-driven vision into his analytically focused engineering team? As he stared at the chaotic colors before him, something vulnerable and raw opened within him. He suddenly felt the weight of a choice bearing down, saying goodbye to the confines of a rigid identity. Would this possibility feel like liberation or folly? The questions churned as Jack returned home, focusing on the intersection of his two selves. And just when he thought clarity might seep in, an unexpected message pinged on his phone, a critical project meeting scheduled for the next day. The time had indeed come to face his dual existence head-on. Would he dare to present the new creative insights fostered here, or would he retreat back into the safety of his engineering fortress? Jack's heart raced as he settled into the chair at the meeting table, the familiar, sterile environment contrasting sharply with the vibrant chaos of the studio. His colleagues crowded around, absorbed in their calculations and project designs, unaware of the internal storm brewing within him. As he listened to the discussions of efficiency metrics and project timelines, he felt like a ship navigating through a fog, where the horizon of his dual identities remained obscured. This was his arena, after all. The structured world of engineering had always been where he felt secure, yet he couldn't shake off the weight of uncertainty. The colorful paint he had slathered onto the canvas flashed in his mind, a reminder that chaos could yield beauty. But could he truly offer a piece of himself, a part that dared to think beyond the boundaries of spreadsheets and blueprints in this sterile arena? Just as he was beginning to visualize his possible contribution, the project manager's voice broke through his thoughts. "We need fresh ideas to tackle the upcoming challenges," she said, scanning the room. Jack's pulse quickened, the anticipation already blooming into anxiety. Here was absolutely the moment where he could introduce the insights he had gained from Lisa, even if it seemed daunting. "Actually," he started, the word catching in his throat, "I was thinking about incorporating some new perspectives in our approach." His colleagues turned to him, expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism. Jack's mind raced through the colorful images of their collaborative work, trying to articulate the blend of engineering precision and artistic creativity. "What do you mean?" one of them pressed, eyebrows raised. "Painting and engineering both rely on layers and transitions," he responded, his voice growing steadier. "What if we allowed ourselves to experiment with our designs? Like how colors interact on a canvas, we could let our ideas evolve as they develop." Silence fell over the table, and uncertainty thickened the air. He could feel an urge to retract his suggestion, to retreat to the safety of statistical analysis, but something, perhaps the encouragement from Lisa, forced him to continue. "Think about embracing unexpected results," he pleaded. "It doesn't have to be about failure or victory. It can be about progress, adapting our ideas as we learn from our process." Silence fell over the table, and uncertainty thickened the air. He could feel an urge to retract his suggestion, to retreat to the safety of statistical analysis, but something, perhaps the encouragement from Lisa, forced him to continue. "Think about embracing unexpected results," he pleaded. "It doesn't have to be about failure or victory. It can be about progress, adapting our ideas as we learn from our process." A few heads nodded, but the majority remained unconvinced. The first cracks in his confidence began to show as questions flooded in. Was this approach too unconventional for their work culture? Would they see him as frivolous, undermining the integrity of the projects they took pride in? "Jack," the project manager finally said, her tone neutral, "we appreciate your enthusiasm, but do you think creativity can really mesh with our tried and true methods? We have standards to maintain." Her words were laced with careful skepticism, cutting deeper than he anticipated. His cheeks flushed as he swallowed the bitter taste of self-doubt once more. Could innovation be sidelined by adherence to the conventional? Anxiety coursed through him like electricity. He was teetering on the edge of this crossroads, the temptation to retreat growing stronger. But something shifted within him as he thought of Lisa, the art studio, and the joy of unrestrained expression. "I believe that creativity can strengthen our processes," he replied, a new determination sparking in his voice. "Embracing diverse ideas might lead to more robust solutions. After all, even our best systems can evolve." A murmur passed among his colleagues, their uncertainty appearing to ebb as his sincerity radiated. Could he be the one to lead this charge within the rigid framework of their traditional environment? The glimmer of hope felt nearly intoxicating, but illuminated an inherent risk. If he pushed forward, he could be asked to defend his convictions against judgment that could dismantle his fragile resolve. The clock ticked softly in the background, and urgent whispers of possibilities began to swirl. Would he rally enough support to bridge his two worlds? Or would he end up further isolated, the engineer unable to reconcile with the artist within? As the meeting ultimately adjourned, Jack felt a swell of mixed emotions. The battle between his two identities would persist, but with a taste of newfound conviction. Tomorrow's conversations would demand clarity. The question wasn't just how he would navigate this terrain. It became a matter of who he was willing to be. He stepped outside the conference room, the weight of his new reality settling heavily on his shoulders. Awaiting him was the canvas of his choices, blank yet filled with promise. Would he draw upon this turning point to boldly reclaim his narrative, or would fear dissuade him from fully embracing what lay ahead? And as he glanced back at the dimmed conference room light, a new message illuminated his phone screen. A message from Lisa asking about his meeting, igniting a flame of excitement mixed with trepidation. Would he share his vulnerability and aspirations, or would he choose silence once again, letting his internal battles dwell in the shadow? Jack stared at his phone, his heart racing. The screen lit up with Lisa's message, a simple inquiry about how the meeting had gone, yet it felt like an invitation to share his newfound thoughts. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Would he lay bare his struggle to fuse creativity with conformity? The fear of judgment loomed large, but mingled with that fear was desire. The desire to be seen, not just as an engineer crammed into role expectations, but as someone who dared to step outside those confines. "Hey, Lisa," he finally typed, "the meeting was interesting. I proposed some ideas about integrating creativity into our designs." He pressed send, almost immediately regretting his candor. The seconds crawled by, each one heavy with the weight of potential repercussions. What would she think? Would she see him as a visionary or merely an idealist chasing shadows? Just as self-doubt threatened to engulf him again, his phone buzzed. "Wow, that sounds refreshing. I'd love to hear more. Let's meet." Relief washed over him, followed by a swell of excitement. Lisa's enthusiasm ignited something in him. Perhaps he could share more of his artistic side without the world dismissing it as frivolous. Jack felt a pull towards the art studio, where he could escape the rigid expectations of his day job. He made his way to the studio, the air thick with artistic fervor. It was a sanctuary for him, a space where he could explore endlessly without the confines of predicting outcomes or calculating efficiency. Each step felt lighter, the weight of conformity easing as he inhaled the rich odors of paint and varnish. As he entered, Lisa looked up, her paintbrush poised mid-air. "Jack!" she exclaimed, her face lighting up. "Let's hear about your ideas." They spent the afternoon immersed in conversation, bouncing ideas off each other like bright sparks. Jack shared his vision of transforming project planning into an organic, evolving process rather than a linear one. "Imagine if we could draft preliminary designs that adapt based on feedback from the team, almost like how a painting evolves," he suggested, the passion in his voice palpable. Lisa nodded excitedly. "That's it, just like in art, when we learn which colors work together. The concept can be messy at first, But then, it refines itself. Jack marveled at how liberating it felt to discuss his engineering work in such a fluid way. With each exchange, he noticed the subtle sharpening of his ideas, each interaction polishing away the rough edges of his insecurities. He remembered what he had felt in the meeting, the initial fear slowly transitioning to excitement. Intertwining the threads of art and engineering wasn't just a dream, it was becoming a possibility. The sunlight dimmed as they struggled to make sense of their ideas. They laughed, made mistakes, learned, and progressed. There was a beauty in the chaos they created, the quiet triumph of navigating the intricate balance between structure and spontaneity. Yet, as the day drew to a close, a lingering question gnawed at him. How could he bring this newfound perspective back to his colleagues? Would they appreciate this experimental take, or would he face the scorn of professional ridicule again? Jack found himself pulled between the exhilarating thrill of being true to himself and the suffocating pressures of conforming to traditional methodologies. Standing at the door of the studio, Jack took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of two distinct worlds pulse through him: the rigid, dependable world of engineering and the vibrant, unpredictable realm of art. Until now, he had assumed he had to choose one over the other. Yet today had illuminated a path he hadn't considered. What if he didn't have to choose? As he left the studio, he felt a rush of anticipation. Perhaps he could be the one to challenge the status quo, to illuminate the benefits of creativity within the engineering space. But just then, his phone buzzed again, and he glanced down. His project manager's name lit up the screen. A knot formed in his stomach. The timing felt ominous. What would she want to discuss? Was he ready to face the very doubts he had tried so hard to overcome? Would he rise up to this new challenge, or would this encounter pull him back into the shadows? Jack took a deep breath as he stared at the message from his project manager. He could feel that familiar tension creeping back in, but now it was compounded by the exhilarating warmth of his time spent with Lisa. This was a pivotal moment, a chance to redefine not only how he approached his work, but also how he perceived himself within that world. "Jack, could we meet? There are some points I'd like to discuss regarding the recent proposal," the message read. He hesitated for a moment, the stakes suddenly tangible. This was about more than just a project. It was about his identity. Would he retreat into the safety of well-rehearsed responses, advocating for the same conservative methodologies he'd always championed? Or would he embrace the unpredictable chaos born from Lisa's encouragement? The decision had to be made. He typed back, affirmatively, setting a time to meet her. As he drove to the office, he reflected on the vibrant collaboration with Lisa. Art, once merely an abstract concept to him, now revealed itself as a language of nuance, each brushstroke a decision made in uncertainty, yet leading to unexpected, beautiful outcomes. Could he channel that same perspective into engineering? Sitting across from his project manager, Jack felt the grip of nerves. The sterile environment of the conference room felt suffocating compared to the inspired chaos of the art studio. He composed himself, drawing on every ounce of confidence. "I've been considering the proposal," he started, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside. "And I believe it should include a more adaptable project management framework. What if we encouraged iterative feedback from our team rather than strictly adhering to a linear process?" His project manager raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched across her features. "Iterative feedback? How does that improve our efficiency?" Jack took a breath, allowing the echoes of his recent experiences to guide him. "By treating our designs like a canvas, we can incorporate team input throughout the phases of the project. Just like in art, creativity can yield unforeseen solutions when we build in flexibility. It's about harnessing creativity within the structure of our work." Silence filled the room. Jack's heart raced as he sat there, waiting for the weight of her response. Would she understand? Would she discourage this fresh direction? Or would she see the possibility housed within his proposition? "You know," she finally said, leaning back in her chair, "you have a point. We've traditionally been so focused on efficiency that we've overlooked how creative thinking can enhance our effectiveness." Jack felt a surge of relief wash over him. Exactly. By allowing our designs to adapt as we gain feedback, we could elevate our outcomes and better meet our clients' needs. A smile crept to her face, and suddenly he felt a spark of affirmation. "Let's run a pilot program. You can lead it," she said, her tone shifting toward approval. Jack blinked, registering her words. "Lead it? Yes, I think this could be a great opportunity for you, and for the entire team. It's about time we challenge our practices." The reality of her words set in. It was a chance not just to prove that art and engineering could coexist, but also to reclaim his elegance and creativity within the structured environment of his profession. In that moment, his anxieties began to fade, replaced by anticipation. This was his chance to embrace both parts of himself, the engineer and the blossoming artist. With newfound conviction, he stepped up confidently. "I won't let you down. I'll put together a presentation and gather a team who can help implement this strategy. Let's create something innovative." "Good," she said, her demeanor now vibrant with enthusiasm. "Let's see how this evolves. I'm looking forward to it." As he left the conference room, Jack felt a rush of exhilaration.
For the first time, he understood that each part of himself, his meticulous engineering mind, and his developing artistic spirit were not opposing forces, but rather pieces of a complex tapestry that formed his true identity. He quickly sent a message to Lisa, sharing the thrilling news of his upcoming project. As he awaited her response, he realized he had not just conquered a professional conflict, but embarked on a journey of profound personal growth. This was the acknowledgement he needed, the acceptance of who he had always been, and the person he was learning to become. Now he felt the thrill of merging chaos and order, creativity and precision. He was ready to embrace this duality, to evolve, and to guide others in seeing the beauty of that coexistence. The once daunting road ahead now glimmered with possibilities, and he was determined to walk it boldly. As Jack stepped outside into the evening light, a sense of accomplishment enveloped him. A year from now, he might just be recognized for this bold new direction, a leader in creativity within engineering. Today, he had taken a definitive leap toward fulfillment, the alignment of his passions and career aspirations, finally setting the course for a life that, much like the perfect painting, embraced every hint of uncertainty and vibrant chaos along the way. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion.